morning, Dr. Darío Delgado, General Attorney of Cuba, and today, in the minutes I have for my presentation, to tell you about what we are doing in Peru concerning corruption, which is not only a problem in Peru, but also in different Latin American regions. But I would like to say, as a presentation way, that there are many scandals in Latin America, and the question that we always ask ourselves is that if one day we would free ourselves from this scourge that is provoking so many problems in the world. And the question and the answer I give ourselves is that yes, that it is necessary for us to change and to promote legislations, and therefore this is a question to be faced by everybody. We, through the mass media, see the different news disseminated across the world, where not only small groups of citizens are claiming for new changes in the policies of our countries, but we see that there are great demonstrations of persons demanding, because they are very upset by these problems, they are demanding the quick solution of these problems. Compared to what happened in the past, today we see with some calm that the scandals of corruption I mentioned before are already treated and dealt with by different courts with a certain degree of independence. We see, as for example in Brazil, Chile, Colombia, and Guatemala, different emblematic cases that have led to exemplary sanctions, as for example the imprisonment of politicians and entrepreneurs. If we continue with this kind of policy, we will be able to have many changes and for many successful reforms in all legislation, but especially in the Peruvian legislation. We are working in this direction. During the 1980s, 1990s, we have been working on different measures concerning the fiscalization and other measures in order to have these very complex cases, because some are financial crimes to be included and addressed by our laws, especially all those problems. And we are working every day in order to collect information, even at international level, concerning this problem and to have a positive way of addressing it. So we should promote reforms in our legal process and system, and we should encourage and train our police in order to face corruption, especially in the case of Peru, the illicit drug trafficking, because as you know, my country is one of the main producers of the coca leaf, which is important, or it's an ingredient of the coke. So this is also a way of promoting the fight against corruption, so as to impose the law. As one of the reforms in my country recently, last week, in fact, as part of the fight against corruption, the Congress of the Republic adopted a law it passed a law sanctioning the enterprises involved in these criminal acts against the state and promoting a very effective struggle in order to eradicate this illegal traffic. This regulation sanctioning enterprises involved in these illegal acts will allow us to enter the Organization for Cooperation. Yesterday
we heard the presentation by Ecuador when he mentioned that this norm is already valid in Ecuador and it's been very successful. It has been very difficult for us to work on this norm because there was a lot of opposition, of course, due to different interests. Fortunately, thanks, we were able to adopt this law last week, and these companies involved in irregular acts will be fined, and their activities can be suspended, their licenses can be canceled, their facilities will be closed, and their societies will be dissolved. This norm or policy is important legal disposition. It is not a government or political norm. This has been a work that carried out by the institutions involved in justice, as well as high-level anti-corruption commissions in the country. And this is presided by the Attorney General of the Republic of Peru, who is not here. And in this norm, we have the protection of citizens that contribute information regarding the illicit activities of these companies and the protection of their families so that they are not victims of those that have been damaged by this.
So these form part of what I mentioned before. The strategies contained in the National Plan Against Corruption. There is a political will to reactivate the law against corruption, to repair civil rights, and for the collection of funds. Likewise, the activation of the creation of high-level commission of national goods and the law of ownership. With these laws and the repatriation of sums of money in other countries, we are going to implement specialized prosecution offices to recover these funds. In this regard, my country, with the powers of the General Attorney in the last 2 years, we have created these specialized organizations which are already appointed in different parts of the country, and we have begun this process in the frontiers in Bolivia, with Bolivia, and in this frontier we are engaged in a very important work recovering these funds. The budget granted by the government not only for the prosecution offices and lawyers' offices, mainly dealing with the corruption of officers and officials to face this scourge. There is another articulation with this law with those applying justice, the National Lawyers Council, the Ministry of Justice, and the civil society, including the business sector, working in this fight against corruption. So nowadays we have an important instrument and a budget that will allow us to face directly this corruption, and especially a facilitation for those involved in justice to be able to face this corruption. The public ministry plays a very important role in our country. It is the entity dealing with all penal problems, investigations addressed by the public administration, which is, for example, the case of corruption. International legal cooperation in this regard, and also against the organized crime, the Lavajato, as you would like to call it. This is a state power in which those who have committed a crime within the national territory are subjected to a penal sanction. But in recent years, these indisciplines going beyond the national frontiers are also addressed, because we are already facing a transnational delinquency, not only within the country but also at transnational level. It is beyond any kind of control. So we have created this judicial cooperation institution that helps us to work together on several issues which are very common in our country. So it is necessary for us to work in these issues of legal cooperation, especially, for example, extradition, the recovery of assets, which are very important at international level and characterized by a powerful criminal organization. So these are very sound and organizations causing a lot of problems to our countries. Our country is nowadays engaged in a work with international cooperation. We have passed the relevant regulations not only in the legal sphere, the penal sphere, where we have a whole chapter describing how this cooperation should be taken forward, but also support to sign agreements and treaties with different countries in order to promote an effective international work. So to this effect, we should create these international legal cooperation institutions so as to ensure that these instruments will be allowing us to face this problem, to build bridges among countries in order to strengthen the legal and political basis of this issue. In the public ministry, we have been facing serious problems. Perhaps you have read these in the newspaper. In the 1990s, we had to face a difficult situation in which we had to see how our institutions involved in the application of our law enforcement were involved in illegal acts, because at that time the state, to a certain way, harmed the good operation of these institutions. There was a high filtration of the political instruments, and bad politicians who led my country to a complete disaster. So this was an ominous time, the 1990s, but now from the 2000 on, we have elected a democratic government, and we have been able to improve our public administration, leading us to work step by step. And nowadays we have a public ministry which is increasing. Of course, we don't have the final solution, but we have progressed greatly. So on this basis, we have legal instruments. The instrument law of efficient collaboration that allowed us, after these problematic time, allowed us to send to trial all these persons who were involved in this corruption. And we have been able to disarticulate all these criminal organizations, and today we are awaiting solutions concerning these people who are in hiding in other places. They are under search and imprisonment. We also have the limitation of rights law. This is a fundamental law in order to have a sustainable or a sustained impeachable law. Law 379 and the Law 399, entrusting the minister to carry out preliminary investigations in case of governmental officers. Now, the country or the government can impeach even the President of the Republic, because he has already this power. Congressmen, senators, and all people with that prerogative. It is also said that, of course, we have the 23-380 law, and for you to see the importance that the congressmen and the citizens have given to this post of general attorney's post, is to have contact with all the deeds and problems that should be arranged. We also have some legal instruments, 23-380, modifying our organic law, empowering the minister to appoint provisional general attorneys in order for them to work on anti-corruption, organized crime, money laundering, and others. We are speaking about attorneys or prosecutors who are going to work with complex cases, serious, extremely serious cases, as well as the training of a group of prosecutors who, according to the magnitude or the scope of the crime, and especially the results of these, should be empowered to face this. We have been working also because we want to forget that time, that ominous time in the 1990s, so we want to recover the trust and the confidence of citizens by playing an objective role. So this is the main objective we have as prosecutors who are working actively in this public ministry. So in order to comply with our functions, they should have the mechanisms, the conducts, and they should have guidelines in order to comply with these good practices and international cooperation issues. The nation's General Attorney's Office has the authority to work actively in international cooperation. Alonso Peña Cabrera is in charge of this work. It is a very interesting work. He has a highly specialized group, and it is increasingly strengthened as a group to support his work. They are also improving the way in which they tackle these corruption, and in this case, through legal cooperation, we can reach what the point we want to reach. Our legal cooperation office is in charge of extradition area, legal assistance, transportation of people, of prisoners, and they are mainly based on the autonomy that